Call the meeting to order.
Cox,
Yes.
Lush,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nichols, Williams,
Yes.
First order of business is a resolution, bill number 2015-08, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract of obligation with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources regarding estimated post-closure expenditures for the City of Mexico sanitary landfill. Bruce?
You might want to explain why we
Oh.
skipped those two.
We skipped the minutes because Chris and I were gone, and now Steve is gone, and so we don't have a quorum to address, to approve the minutes. So we're skipping them this evening.
Okay. This resolution is reference the city's former sanitary landfill, and which was closed, and as a part of that closure, we have a post-closure process to follow. And to cover the details of this resolution and what we are doing here, I will turn to Roger Haynes.
Good evening. In 1998, the city closed its sanitary landfill and began a 30-year post-closure process as required and regulated by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. As part of the post-closure process, the city prepares an estimate of annual and cumulative costs related to post-closure activities and submits the report to MDNR for approval. Staff will submit an updated financial assurance instruments to MDNR noting the potential post-closure cost estimate of $149,292. As of September 30th, 2014, the city has $131,897 in the post-closure fund and projects receiving into the fund annually $7,650 for the remaining term of the post-closure, which will cover estimated expenses for post-closure. Based on the financial assurance instruments submitted, the city's Standard & Poor's credit rating of AA- and success of our post-closure funding mechanism, the city has the opportunity to enter into a contract of obligation with MDNR rather than be directed to expend funds to purchase an insurance policy or basically a bond, naming DNR as the recipient and being insured for estimated post-closure expenditures should they occur. Staff recommends to council that they proceed with reading and passage of the resolution authorizing the city manager to sign the contract of obligation with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
This is an annual contract, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we do it annually.
We do this annually and update the figures and basically get their concurrence that our figures are close to what they anticipate and
In the ballpark.
Right.
Sir, go ahead.
I move we read bill number 2015-08.
Second.
Cox,
Yes.
Lush,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Bill number 2015-08, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract of obligation with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources regarding estimated post-closure expenditures for the City of Mexico sanitary landfill permit number 01-00703. Whereas the City of Mexico closed its sanitary landfill in 1998 and began a 30-year post-closure process as required and regulated by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. And whereas the City of Mexico prepares an estimate of annual and cumulative costs related to post-closure activities and submits the report to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for approval. And whereas because of the success of the city's post-closure funding mechanism, the city has the opportunity to enter into a contract of obligation with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for post-closure funding purposes rather than expend resources to purchase insurance unnecessarily, and whereas it is necessary for the city manager to sign a contract of obligation with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for post-closure funding purposes, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the city manager is hereby authorized to sign a contract of obligation with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and a copy is attached hereto marked as Exhibit A. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. Move for passage of Bill Number 2015-8.
Second.
Scott,
Yes.
Lush,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Next is Bill Number 2015-09, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an extension to the city's on-call engineering services agreement with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren Incorporated. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor, to cover this item, I will turn to Kenzie Russell.
A little history. Back in January of 2013, the city entered into an on-call engineering contract with Schaefer, Klein, and Warren. That contract provided for up to 2 optional annual renewals. We exercised the first option last year in January to renew the contract, and we're presenting then the last option to renew the contract here this evening. Part of the process includes a review meeting with the consultant to review performance, and we did have some concerns this year when we held the review meeting. SKW did some in-house soul searching and research and has restructured some of their personnel for services to us, and with that in place and presented, we determined as a staff that we could accept a renewal or recommend a renewal for the last year of the contract, and so that's what you have here in front of you. Also tonight, Mr. Dennis Stith from Schaefer, Klein & Warren is here if there are questions from the council in regard to their services.
Were there changes in the rates, or was there a percentage increase?
There is a change in the, a slight change in the rates. Actually, I think the basic rates, and Dennis, you may have to correct me, but I don't think the basic rates changed this year. There was a couple of changes in classifications and the addition, I think, of another classification, perhaps in the landscape architecture area or something. I don't remember exactly what it was there. It wasn't something that affected Public Works much there, but with the annual renewal, there is the opportunity to update their rates, and so they provide a new rate list annually with the renewal. Do you know, in terms of your overall rate sheet, what that?
Overall, it's pretty much the same. There were several categories that, if someone fell into between 2 categories, they may have gone up a little bit, or even some down a little bit. Someone maybe at $100 an hour rate might, or 105 may have gone up to 110, some may have gone to 100. So overall, I don't believe in the total of what you'll see for cost that it would be any different than what you had before. And I'm Dennis Stitt. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
I move for reading Bill Number 2015-09.
Second.
Scott,
Yes.
Lush,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes. Bill number 2015-09, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an extension to the city's on-call engineering service agreement with Schaefer, Klein and Warren Incorporated, whereas the City of Mexico has a contract with Schaefer, Klein and Warren Incorporated for an on-call engineering services dated January 30th, 2013, and whereas the contract provided for 2 one-year extensions and the city exercised the first extension on February 4th, 2014, and whereas the City of Mexico and Schaefer, Klein and Warren Incorporated have agreed to exercise the second one-year option for the year 2015. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the city manager is authorized to sign a one-year extension with Schaefer, Klein and Warren Incorporated for on-call engineering services. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. I move for passage of bill number 2015-09.
Second.
Todd,
Yes.
Lesh,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Next, we have an ordinance, Bill number 2015-10, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to sign a utility easement for Missouri American Water for water line replacement projects. It's up for 2 readings by title only. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor. Missouri American, which is the water company here in town, has different projects that they have planned, and one of them is on the Moore Street area, and they've asked for a easement, and to cover the easement and the details, I will turn to Kenzie Russell.
Patrick Kelly contacted me here a while back and expressed the need for an easement. The Moore Street where we're doing our project between Liberty and Monroe only has a 40-foot wide right-of-way. When we put our sidewalk and our curb and gutter on, that is going to fill up the right-of-way basically. He began a project a couple of years ago replacing the water line. They put a sleeve underneath the railroad and replaced the water line there under the main line tracks by Monroe Street. And this is really a continuation of that replacement project for him. But for maintenance reasons and all, they prefer to not have their line underneath our concrete improvements. And so in order to have a place to put it, he asked for this easement. It covers only the city-owned property there across the front of the animal shelter and the maintenance shed. You might also know that they've had a problem with a water leak there by the animal shelter, and that's basically the result of a valve box, not a meter, but a valve that sits at the edge of the street, keeps getting run over, and when a heavy truck runs over it, it pushes it down, and they end up then with a leak of the valve where it's pushed down into the line, and this would help solve that problem also with the continuing leak. And of course, from the standpoint of ice and cold, we'd like to see that fixed as well. And so we're recommending that we go ahead and provide the easement for them. This is not a transfer of property, but it is just an easement for the water line work, 10 foot wide at the back side of the 40-foot right-of-way.
Will any of this go directly below where our sidewalk is going to go, or will?
No, it will move it outside the sidewalk. It'll be to the west of the sidewalk.
West of the sidewalk. So there shouldn't be any, a lot of times when you work up the soil and things, it gets, and later on it sinks down. That won't interfere with our sidewalk construction.
Shouldn't interfere at all. And the other thing I want to make clear is that this is the sidewalk project does not necessitate that this water line be moved. This is simply a continuation of a project that they started, that they want to try to do, coordinating and not have to come in and worry about breaking up the sidewalk when they do the work. They like to do it ahead of time just to coordinate with us and with our project.
That's very good.
Your Honor, if there's no further questions, I move for first reading of Bill number 2015-10 by title only.
Second.
Bott,
Yes.
Flesch,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Bill number 2015-10, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to sign a utility easement for Missouri American Water for water line replacement projects. I would move for second reading by title only.
Second.
Bott,
Yes.
Flesch,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Bill number 2015-10, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to sign a utility easement for Missouri American Water for water line replacement projects. I would move for passage of Bill 2015-10.
Second.
Bott,
Yes.
Flesch,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Next is a staff report, purchase of replacement playground equipment for Parks Recreation Department. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor, we requested proposals to replace playground equipment at Garfield Park. Had a number of variety of different options to look at and to cover the details of the bid and what is being proposed by the Parks and Recreation Department as well as the Park Board. We will turn to Chad Shoemaker.
Thank you, Bruce. This is obviously a little bit difficult kind of equipment to bid because there are lots of manufacturers that make all kinds of different, very similar equipment. So when Rock and I first sat down and tried to figure out how we were going to come up with a fair process, we decided the best way to make sure that we got bids that were from in Missouri, local vendors that we knew that, we'd have support from was to kind of go out and pick a pre-qualified listing of the major playground suppliers in the region. So that's what we did. We sent out requests for proposals to those 6 vendors, and we got back 12 proposals. You'll notice a couple discrepancies in the numbers. One, we budgeted $60,000, and we asked for a quote for $55,000, so that we have money for concrete and whatever else to install the equipment once we get it. And then the other thing you'll notice is that our original price on this particular design changed from $54,303 to $54,980. And the reason for that was because there were a couple elements of the original design that even though everybody really liked the original design, we thought were not very graffiti resistant. And so we went back to the vendor and we said, hey, there's just these 2 pieces here that we want you to replace with another piece that's less likely to have graffiti on it. So you'll notice there's not very many flat surfaces. There's no cabins for the high school kids to sit up in and carry out various acts and write things. You're going to see that the face of our playgrounds in the past was we had a lot of the same kind of equipment. This is the same company that provided our last set of playgrounds 10 to 15 years ago. Garfield is the oldest, and in this relay over the next 5 or 6 years, 7 years, as we go through these setups, we're going to try to make sure that we get some different kinds of looks than some of the others. So we will have different kinds of opportunities out there in the system instead of a whole bunch of pieces that look just like this one. So that said, it is our recommendation that you approve the purchase of playground equipment from Parks and Recreation Design in Fort Missouri for the bid price of $54,980, subject to the bidder's ability to deliver the equipment in an acceptable timeframe. You can see a schematic of what that'll look like.
Would that equipment be in place for this summer or not?
Yes, hopefully. Yeah. I mean, I can't make an absolute promise because I don't know if it'll start raining in April and stop raining in August, but if we have a normal construction season, we should have it in before 4th of July, I would hope.
And do you have to prepare the area for this? It seems like a fairly large.
Yeah, the footprint is pretty similar to the footprint we have now. It's a little bit different shape.
blank spaces in between, we'll go ahead and we'll fill with engineered wood fiber. We're not going to have grass running up in between the two pieces there. So what we'll do is we'll pull back the engineered wood fiber that's there. We'll take out the old set. We'll put the new set in. We'll put that old engineered wood fiber back, and then we'll top it with brand new material. So we'll put it, top it probably 4 to 6 inches of brand new engineered fiber material.
Usually on most of this equipment, or when you have this equipment around, you have some signage. Is that covered in the bid?
Yeah, there'll be a sign saying age appropriate, play.
Well, you have 12 different options, and they range, there's quite a bit of range monetarily, but it's my understanding that you just kind of give them a general idea of what we wanted to do, and then each one came up with a design option?
Yeah, they came up, and most of them came up with more than one.
More than one, right.
And we told them that it was a replacement set for this particular park. And, anybody that was interested in coming to meet us, we met on site at this particular park. And pretty much all of them have questions when you send them this kind of thing. It's a lot like any other complicated piece of equipment. There's a lot of finished details that they want to know about. And we answer their questions as we go, try to make it as, transparent and fair to everybody as we can. And then we, convened a committee of park board members, my staff, and then we got Roger from Administrative Services, so we made sure it wasn't just our staff did what they wanted, so that we had the numbers balanced out to where there was actually more non-staff people selected than staff people.
So everybody had
Yes.
an equal opportunity to bid on it and submit whatever design they wanted.
Whatever they felt like their best piece was. And we had some specific language in that proposal about no tubes, no cabins with slides, some of the things that we've had probably years, in the past being graffiti magnets.
It's hard to consider playground equipment as complicated equipment, but I suppose.
With the new safety regulations,
I suppose it could be.
it's sad, but it is.
Yeah, it is.
There are a lot of ASTM rules that we have to follow with this equipment now.
And ADA too, probably.
Also, yes. So, we have to worry about fall zones and distance of equipment to equipment and make sure people can't jump from one piece to another. So the guys that lay these out are very well trained. Because, they're trying to limit their liability,
Obviously.
So I'm going to ask a few questions. One is, so we've got a new bathroom out there, now we're going to have new playgrounds. Do we have plans to add some parking or something out there? Because there's not a whole lot of parking for use out there.
In our long-term vision, yeah, we would like to add some parking to that park. Is it going to happen this year? No, it's not going to happen this year, but it is penciled in my 5-year plan a little further down the road that we develop a new entrance and get some parking in that park off of the boulevard so that we can actually, when people want to come use that shelter, that they can actually drive up close like all of our other shelters. Because it's a nice park location, frankly. And now that we've got the brush cleaned up on the corner pretty much, hopefully we can make it just as an attractive location as all the rest of our parks.
And then my second question is a little more technical on the bidding process. So are we not bound by the same rules? Because there's only one bid higher. So, usually when we do stuff, it's
right.
Low bidder. So I'm trying to figure out.
In this case, we sent out a request for proposals. And it said very specifically that we would select the proposal that we thought provided the most play value, and the best fit of the site for the dollars bid. And when we talked to them, we told them we want you to spend the 55. We didn't want to leave money on the table on this. But the only way we can get an actual quote like you're talking about is if we say, well, we want this high slide, or this, or this, that, or this. Well, to do that, we almost have to pick a manufacturer and specify to their equipment, which limits us from getting any bids from anybody else. The way they sell this equipment kind of forces you into this kind of model. That's fair.
All right, thank you.
Chad, the reference that was made to the budget mentioned existing playground equipment as trade-in. Are they taking it on trade? I can't imagine a trade-in.
Actually, this particular company has a program where if you're replacing their equipment, And that's one of the reasons this proposal won, frankly, was because it provided a lot more equipment for the money. And you can ask Roger, I mean, maybe twice as much equipment as some of the other bids, because we were getting a 40% discount, because they get to take one of their old playgrounds out it doesn't meet the new ASTM standards, it doesn't meet the current ADA standards necessarily, it doesn't meet some of the new playground safety standards, and so they're able to take that liability off the ground, and they're willing to sell you their new equipment cheaper to reduce their old liability. So, that's how that works out.
With the new restrooms and the new playground equipment, it will sure be nice to have a new fence along that boulevard.
It really would, I agree. And
Or do something with it, paint it or something. You don't want to paint it, I know, but
it's on the list also. So, I mean, I wish we could do it all at once, but, we simply can't afford to
I know.
keep plugging away at it until we have it looking nice. We do have a new backstop for that part
That's
of the
good.
softball field in the 5-year plan also.
I move that we purchase the playground equipment from Hudson Recreation and Design of Troy, Missouri for a bid price of $54,980.
Second.
Fox,
Yes.
Flesh,
Yes.
Miller,
yes,
Williams,
Yes.
Next is another staff report, the purchase of radiant heaters for the Singleton Maintenance Building. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor. The heating system that we currently have out there is a forced air heating system that is pretty much original, and it's run its useful life, and so we need to look at a different system, and to cover what we're looking at, why we think this makes the more sense for economic reasons, and all of the bidding that was done, I will turn to Rita Jackson.
$20,014-15 budget allows $18,000 to install radiant heat at the single maintenance building, with funding being available to cover the additional amount from other line items within the capital outlay budget. Purchases of lesser priority items will be deferred. The radiant heat project will be completed in 2 phases covering 2 budget years. The first phase consists of a total of 4 radiant heaters being installed. 3 heaters will be installed in the mechanics work area and 1 in the wash bay area. This project will include the installation of 2 125,000 BTU, 1 100,000 BTU, and 1 75,000 BTU heaters. The heaters will replace a 30-year-old forced air furnace systems which have parts that are no longer available for repairs. Prevailing wage must be paid for this project. The project includes the radiant heaters, sizing of new gas piping, combustion air pipe, flue piping, and electrical and control work. An advertisement for bids was placed in the Mexico Ledger on January 12, 2015, and mailed to 3 local surrounding area vendors soliciting bids for the installation of the heaters. A mandatory pre-bid meeting was held on Wednesday, January 21st, 2015 at 10 a.m. at the job site. On January 29th, 2 bids were received. Mexico Heating Company for $22,950 and Monmouth Heating and Cooling for $30,000. Staff recommends that council approve the bid of Mexico Heating for the purchase of the radiant heaters in the amount of $22,950. I do have Doug Ballard here, one of our building inspectors, which has spent a lot of time with this project, for questions that I can't answer.
My only question is, where did we get that budget amount? And we're way off. I mean, over 20% off of what we allotted to what it ended up bidding. So, any idea why there's an additional 20% cost on what we thought?
Well, actually, we had bid the project the year before, and it had come in at that amount. Why we put that amount in the budget, I don't know.
We got estimates previously, and that's what they bid it at, so we assume that was their estimate, so we assumed that would be the case. So obviously, it came in more than what they gave us a year ago when we started pricing it.
Are these high-efficiency units, or is there any efficiency to these units, or do we know? Or
I don't know that they have an efficiency rating. Typically, the radiant heaters, I've read where they will, they have like a 25% better performance than a forced air. High efficiency, I'm sorry, I don't think that they are rated as such.
But this will be more efficient than the forced air furnaces that we have today?
It should be, yes.
Okay.
It's obviously a different type of heat. You should have savings on the use. I mean, the radiant heaters, they heat whatever's in there. It doesn't heat the air. So once you heat the concrete and the building envelope, it has a tendency to stay warmer whenever you open the door and lose all your forced air conditioning.
I move we accept a proposal from Mexico Heating Company in the amount of $22,950 for new radiant heaters.
Second.
Yes.
Lush?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Next, we have the claims.
I move we pay the bills.
Second.
Scott?
Yes.
Lush?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
And next, we have council comments. Councilman Lesh.
I don't think I have any this evening.
Councilman Williams.
I was not here last meeting. I had some work stuff I had to do, but I missed the Washington people came back again, apparently. Can we or have we talked with the entirety of that street to get some kind of consensus? Because it seems like we got the same couple of people in here constantly, and I think it might help us because we're using a lot of time, a lot of staff time, a lot of energy. But we know what the options are at the end of the day, and I don't know, have those options not been presented to the rest of the neighborhood, or?
The question that we had last meeting was really different than the street surface itself.
No, I know it, but I mean, they're jumping on
So,
anything
I
to
mean,
get
the
it.
issue that they had was it was a drainage thing that we've investigated. We've sent them the report, and I think I forwarded that to you guys
Yeah.
also last week. So anyway, what they were asking was not viable to do. As far as the question that they have in regards to curb, gutter, different drainage, parking area, we have provided them all those numbers. We've given those to them. We have talked about, different options on funding. That has all been provided to them. What I think the outstanding issue really would be is we talked about grant fundings, and so we've talked about that, and we are now in a cycle that we can actually begin looking at that, and so we are going to do that. There will be some information that we'll send to them that asking reference low to moderate income issues, questions that they'll have, reference income issues, and so we're going to proceed with that. Rita's doing some follow-up work on that, and so she will be sending them some information regarding that. So we're just entering that phase where we can start looking at that. From talking with the state, it's probably going to be a very hard sell to get grant funding on this, but it's a process that we feel that we should at least go through and look at and let them tell us, I guess, if it is or isn't.
If I may, recall last year, we did have a neighborhood meeting with the entire neighborhood.
Okay. That was my question, because I wasn't sure if this was getting disseminated out to the whole neighborhood, or if it was just these several people and they didn't want to pay that much money themselves, so it just wasn't going any further, or?
I don't think 100% of the neighborhood was there, but it was well attended.
Okay.
The majority of them just wish to have it graded, which was done, and they were happy. Others still wish additional work to be done, but most of them don't want to pay for it.
And another question, have we heard anything else from MoDOT about South 54?
I spoke to Brian Hafner at Rotary 2 weeks ago, and they are still negotiating the contract with the consultant in Jeff City. And so they have a consultant, they've just got to get the contract negotiated, approved by the commission, and then they'll start the study. But it's taken them a while to get that negotiated.
It's those fast government wheels. They just goes fast. That's all I got. Thank you much.
Councilman Miller.
I really don't have any comment other than, and Russell's going to cringe when I say this, but there's a very interesting article in the Missouri Municipal Review this month on cost-benefit analysis on economic development. And if you haven't read it, you might take a look at that and see what you think about it.
That's all I have. I don't think I have anything.
I don't believe I have anything, so we will move on to public comments. Is there anyone who'd like to come forward?
My name is Thomas Fiegler. I live at 1617 Meadow Lane, and I'm up here to talk about on May 12th, 2014, City Council voted to fund the East Central Missouri Drug Task Force in the amount of $12,000 for the year 2014/2015. Part of that memorandum that was signed states that they were looking for compliance with the state sunshine laws, the state of Missouri sunshine law. As of this morning, a group called Show Me Cannabis has begun commencement of legal action against the East Central Missouri Drug Task Force for alleged failure or refusal to comply with the Missouri Sunshine Law. There's a lot going on about this. They released a report that was long and colorful, so I didn't print it because I have a budget that I'm trying to meet this month. But I have links that I can get for all of you for that. But basically, I'd like to ask that any money we haven't already given to them, we don't give to them until this is resolved, be it either a court decision or some sort of settlement or however that has to happen, based on the fact that they're not living up to those standards that were set out for them potentially. $12,000 is more than $1 for every man, woman, and child living in Mexico, as per the last census. So you're looking at a substantial amount. This is also roughly the amount that our property taxes went up from the last year as well. So this is something that I'd really like to see maybe some thought put into what can be done. I don't know how binding that memorandum is, and maybe we can't do anything. Maybe we're stuck to it. Maybe we can recoup some money if they find out that they are guilty of having had done this. And then that can cover the heating project that we had. So.
Any other public comments? Please state your name.
Good evening, my name is Dave Rowland. I am a relative newcomer to Mexico, but my wife grew up here. We live at 14779 Audrain County Road 815, just out over across 54. I'm here tonight primarily to start getting acquainted with the community. We intend to be here for some time. But secondarily, I'm here because I, in fact, went to or attempted to attend a meeting of the East Central Missouri Drug Task Force Executive Board on January 29th. I assume that you gentlemen are all familiar with the Sunshine Law in the state, and it's unambiguous that meetings of public bodies are required to be open to the public unless certain steps are taken to close the meeting. We have no reason to believe that the task force executive board took any steps to close the meeting, but a friend of mine and I were turned away from that meeting. My friend is the director of research for Show Me Cannabis. He told them when we arrived that that was the group he represented. We heard someone down the hall say, he's from Show Me Cannabis, he's going to be recording, and at that point we were told we had to leave. The Sunshine Law makes clear not only that the meeting is open, but that citizens have a right to record the proceedings. It's spelled out in black and white, and yet we were turned away from that meeting. I know that this council doesn't have authority over the task force, but the city of Missouri, the city of Mexico is engaged in a memorandum of understanding with the task force. The police department has a seat on the board of the task force, and as I understand, the city does contribute a significant amount of money to the task force. And so my purpose here tonight is primarily to make you aware of the situation, that the task force is not living up to its obligations under the Sunshine Law. And so going forward, I would hope that this council would keep that in mind as you're considering the extent to which the city of Mexico should be involved with the task force, and in particular, the extent to which the city should be providing funding to the task force. In the meantime, we do expect to prevail in the lawsuit that we filed this morning. I'm the attorney that's handling the lawsuit against the task force, and you'll hopefully be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. Thank you very much for your time.
Any other public comments? Hearing none, I move for adjournment.
Second.
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.